Hi guys, welcome to your prosthodontic lecture. Today we are going to talk about maxillomandibular relation. This is nothing but we are going to talk about centric relation. The last week we spoke about the same maxillomandibular relation, but we did about vertical jaw relation and we did about orientation jaw relation. This is a continuation of the jaw relation where you do a centric jaw relation. So this is also your third clinical step, and after you finish your primary impression and secondary impression, after you're done your vertical jaw relation, you go ahead and do your centric relation. Okay, so what exactly are we learning in this lecture? By the end of this lecture, we should know what is a centric relation. So you'll be able to define a centric relation. Then you will be able to classify the methods used for recording. So the different methods which are used to record a centric relation, the significance of recording the centric, why do we need it? And then the difficulties in obtaining mandibular retrusion, then identify required jaw relations for edentulous patients. Now, in the third clinical step, when the patient is come, you have done your vertical jaw relation. That means you have checked for labial fullness, you have checked for lip fullness, then you have done the VDR, then you've got the video, you've got the freeway space, then you've used your Fox plane to match the orientation of the occlusal plane. That means to say you placed your Fox plane, you got your interpupillary line parallel to the Fox plane, and then you've got your ala trigger line parallel to the Fox plane. Once you have done this, you put your lower dentures, you have measured for the VDO, you have all done with it. So next, what? After you have finished till this step, what is next? Next is your centric relation or your horizontal jaw relation. That's what we're going to talk about today. So in a simple way of saying, centric relation or horizontal jaw relation is bite registration. That means to say, after you've done all the vertical relation, you ask the patient to bite, and the patient is going to bite in a specific way. Now, when he bites in a specific way, is it the right way he's biting, or is it not the right way he's biting? Okay. So if you say in a dentistry point of view, you are actually doing a centric relation. You have to do a relation in which the patient can reproduce this bite every time. So that's the reason we're going to learn about it now. So horizontal relation, remember, is nothing but centric relation. So you have vertical relation, orientation relation, and horizontal relation, which is the centric relation. Now, let's talk about patient who have natural dentition and patient who do not have any teeth. So natural dentition, basically the teeth have proprioception. So when the patient has proprioception, that means when he bites, there is some kind of proprioception taking place in his teeth, and that impulse is gone to the brain stating that whether he's biting in the right way or is not biting in the right way. So, for an example, when you see a patient, when you do a filling in a conservative department, you placed a composite and you ask the patient to bite to check for high points. The patient is able to tell you whether there's a high point or not. That means to say, if he feels high point, he says it feels high. Now, how is he able to say? Because that tooth which is in question, which has been filled, when it comes in contact with the opposing teeth, he understands that that teeth is coming in contact first, where the other teeth are not coming in contact. That means to say that the teeth is giving him a trigger to the brain stating that there's something wrong with your bite, and this is reproducible. That means to say he's able to repeat it again and again and tell you whether it's still high or whether it is not high and whether he feels comfortable. So this is what you see in a natural dentition. Well, let's talk about artificial dentures. That is patients who have acrylic teeth which are placed on an acrylic denture base. Is he going to be able to tell you this? No, not exactly, because he has no teeth, no proprioception. He has no triggers to tell his brain that he's biting in a wrong way. So we have to look into certain triggering sections in the patient where there is completely edentulous, but his brain tells him whether he's biting it in the wrong way or not. That's where you do your centric relation. So centric relation, it is a reproducible position, repeatedly arrived, and thus serves as a reliable guide to develop centric occlusion in artificial dentures. It is a starting point for the arrangement of artificial teeth to develop maximum intercuspation in complete denture. Okay, a very something which I probably assume that you guys have not understand, you will understand. I'll try to explain you as we go through in the lecture. So first let us look at the definition. A maxillomandibular relationship, it's a maxillomandibular relationship. So there is no relation between the teeth. That means it's independent of tooth contact. Remember, centric relation is independent of tooth contact. It has nothing to do with the tooth contact. So a maxillomandibular relationship independent of tooth contact in which the condyles, so that means to say condyles articulate in an anterior superior position. That means to say when the condyles are in certain position in the glenoid fossa, that position is anterior superior position, the relationship what you see between the maxilla and mandible is centric. This has nothing to do with your tooth contact. As I am repeating again and again, please remember centric relation has nothing to do with your tooth contact. So against the posterior slope of the articular eminence in this position, the mandible is restricted to a purely rotated movement, and this unstrained physiological maxillomandibular relationship, the patient can make vertical, lateral or protrusive movements. It is a clinically useful repeatable reference position. So now let me draw and explain you how it is. So my diagrams might not be that great, so please pardon me with that. So the glenoid fossa, and then you have the condylar head of the mandible. So when the condyle is basically in the anterior most position in the glenoid fossa and the superior most position in the glenoid fossa, when the condyle comes to this position in the glenoid fossa, you will see a relation between the maxilla and the mandible. This relation is centric relation. Okay, I assume you have understood. If you have not understood, please question me in the Google Classroom. I'm very happy to explain you again and again. Okay, now why is this centric relation important? Now let's talk about proprioceptions here. So when you have a patient who's dentulous, as I said, the patient has got teeth, he's got periodontal ligament, so his proprioception is in the periodontal ligament, which is actually triggering the brain to say whether he's biting right or wrong. But in the edentulous patient, it is transferred to the TMJ. That's why you are seeing a specific position of the condyle in the glenoid fossa in the TMJ, where when that condyle comes in that specific position in the glenoid fossa, it triggers the patient's brain, stating that the relation between the maxilla and the mandible is right. That is the bite what he has to, or the relation of these two are exact. Now, when they are in that specific relation, you will arrange the teeth in the patient's mouth to maximum intercuspation. So this relation, or what maximum intercuspation you get, is centric occlusion, meaning in a patient who is edentulous, the centric relation is always equal to centric occlusion. But in a patient who is dentulous, the centric relation may not be equal to centric occlusion. Okay, it might not in a dentulous patient, but in an edentulous patient, centric occlusion is always equal to centric relation because you are setting the teeth in the patient's mouth. So the centric relation acts as a propriocenter. Now, some of the salient features for centric, why is it important? Why do you have to do this position? It is a learnable position. That means the patient can learn this position. That means to say that when it comes into a certain specific position, the condyle comes in a specific position, the patient gets to know and he's able to reproduce it every time. And when he's able to reproduce, it's able to record from you. You are able to record it. So it's a learnable, repeatable, recordable position, which means constant, which remains constant throughout life. This never changes. Even though there is resorption of your alveolar ridges when the patient is edentulous, this position will never change. It will always be the same in the patient's mouth. It is a definite entity, so it can be used as a reference point in establishing centric occlusion. So methods of retruding the mandible, that means to say if the condyle has to go into that position, that is anterior and superior most position in the glenoid fossa, what has to be done? You have to retrude the mandible. When the mandible gets retruded completely back and gets closed, that is the position where the condyle is in a anterior superior position in the glenoid fossa. So how do you do this retruding? Ask the patient to swallow. Just give him. So when you place the occlusal rims in the patient mouth, or the bite rims in the patient's mouth, you want to record the centric, just give him a sip of water. Tell him to take a sip of water. As soon as he sips and when he swallows, there will be a slight minimal contact, or there will be a contact between the upper occlusal rim and the lower occlusal rim. As soon as this contact comes in, that is your position where the mandible is most retruded, and that is also your centric relation. Ask the patient to take the tongue backwards to touch the posterior border of the upper record base with his tongue. When he does that and he closes, the same thing happens. The mandible is moved back, and Guide the mandible to centric manually by keeping the index finger on the buccal flanges of the mandibular record base and positioning the thumb under the chin. So basically, when you have placed the occlusal rims, the lower occlusal rims in the patient's mouth, you place your index fingers on the buccal flanges on the occlusal rim, then you ask him to slowly close. Very slowly, as he closes, you push the mandible back and try to push it as back as possible and slowly close. So that is the time the mandible is actually getting retruded back and he is getting into a centric relation. The mandibular occlusal rims should be gently tapped with a finger. This will automatically make the patient retrude his mandible. Okay, these are some of the methods where you retrude the mandible or you make the patient retrude the mandible. So functional or chew-in methods. So in these methods utilize the function movements of the jaws to record the centric relations such as protrusive and lateral exclusive movements. So basically, when you ask the patient to bite, it is usually useful in patients who have already got dentures, because he has already known his bite, or he's already the previous dentures which have been given are in a centric relation and in a centric occlusion. So if you ask the patient to bite by putting the occlusal rims, he bites in a centric relation because it is repeatable and it is learnable, and the patient has already learned this movement. So you can use the functional or chew-in method in this. Then you have something called as the needle house method. Okay, let me explain with the diagram which you would see in the next slide. So in this method, what you do is you have the maxilla, okay, and the mandible. The occlusal rims of the maxilla are attached with something like a needle or something as a style, and then on the lower you have uh, you have just the occlusal rims. Now once you have placed the upper and the upper containing the needle and the lower which has nothing, uh, you ask the patient to bite. You ask the patient to retrude his mandible or swallow and bite. So when he swallows and bite, the mandible is retruded back. That uh, that retruded position is the centric relation. Then you ask him to do a protrusive movement. That the protrusive movement, and then you ask him to do the maxillary left latrusive and the maxillary the mandibular left latrusive and the mandibular right latrusive movement. When he does that, you get a diamond shape. This diamond shape, what you see in the figure, so the most posterior portion is the centric, and then you see the left and the right, which is the mandibular left latrusive and the mandibular right latrusive, and the most protrusive movement is the protrusive maxillary protrusive. So this is one of the ways to record the centric relation. Once it has been recorded, so you place it back, you make sure that it is oriented in such a way the maxilla and mandibular are sealed in the centric relation, and then you start doing the teeth arrangement. In the Patterson's method, it's the similar way of your needle house method. The Patterson's method uses wax occlusal rims. So a trench or a trough is made along the length of the mandibular rim, and in 1:1 mixture of plaster and carborundum paste is loaded in the trench. Then you ask to make the patient to do the protrusive, latrusive and retrusive movements. This generates a compensative curve in the plaster. When the plaster and the carborundum are reduced to a predetermined vertical dimension of occlusion, so because you have already done the vertical dimension of occlusion, so you ask him to do the latrusive protrusive movements, and as it gets corroded, as the plaster and the carborundum gets its shape and comes to a specific vertical dimension of occlusion which you have already recorded, the patient is intruded to retrude the mandible, and the occlusal rims are joined together with metal staples. So in this figure, as you see the Patterson's method, you have a trench which is done, trench or a trough which is done with the mandible. Then you're asking the patient to do the protrusive and the laterusive movements, and you see on the right figure you see the curves which have obtained. So once these curves have obtained, you do it until you come to your specific vertical dimension at occlusion. So you ask it to repeatedly do this motion. Once you know your vertical dimension at occlusion has come to what you have recorded, then you ask the patient to retrude the mandible completely back and close, and once he closes you staple the upper and the lower together with the metal staples, or you can use metal staples, or you can use the stapler pins. So this is Patterson's method. Now coming to graphic method, so there are two types. You have the arrow point tracing measured in single plane or recorded in horizontal plane, and pantograph measured in three-dimensional. Now let's go about and see what it is. So arrow point tracing is basically made using Gothic arch tracers or arrow point tracers. This method, a pen-like pointer is placed, central bearing point is attached on the rim and the recording plate, and the central bearing plate, which is on the lower, is attached to the lower limb. Types of arrow pointers are intraoral and extraoral. So in the intraoral, the pointers are placed inside the patient's mouth. So the central bearing devices is attached to the occlusal rims at the predetermined vertical dimension, such that the central bearing point touches the central bearing plate. The central bearing plate is coated with a mixture of denatured spirit and precipitated chalk. The patient is asked to make movements in anterior, posterior, and lateral directions. After completing the movements, the tracing is examined. Okay. Now when you see this figure, so you have the maxilla which has a plate, okay, and then you have the mandible which has a plate as well, but a screw is attached to this plate. So once you have got the vertical dimension at occlusion, you place the maxilla in the patient's mouth, you place the mandible as well in the patient's mouth, and then you ask the patient to bite. So when he bites, that is your vertical dimension at occlusion, which should be exactly what you have recorded when you're doing your vertical jaw relation. So once that has done, you ask the patient to move to retrude his mandible. So when he retrudes his mandible, the screw which you see on the mandibular occlusal rim makes a mark on the uh, maxilla. So that posterior most point, what you see is your centric relation. And then you ask the patient to do his protrusive and laterusive movements. When he does, the stylus or the pen is making some kind of mark on the upper maxillary metal plate. So when it makes, you see the mark as an arrow. Once the arrow is done, the most protruded, the most retruded position is your centric, and then you have the most protruded position is your protrusive mandibular position, and then you have the left and the right laterusive movements, which is shown in the arrow. So what are the disadvantages? Tracer most visible during procedure. Tracer is not visible during your procedure. That is because it's intraoral. So when he's doing these movements, you're not able to see whether the tracer is actually in contact and it's actually making mark on the maxillary occlusal plate. Uh, Size of the tracing is small, making it difficult to determine the apex of the tracing. So as because when the tracer is doing, the patient can give you kind of different bites, so the arrow or the apex of this tracing can be at variable points, so it might be confusing. So now you have the extraoral tracing. It is nothing but it's the same as your intraoral tracing. It's just that your tracing points are placed outside the patient's mouth. So in this way, the needle which is placed outside the patient's mouth and the plate which is placed in the outside the patient's mouth is actually visible by you. You can actually see whether they are in contact and they are actually making those marks. So in this figure, you can see the mandible and the maxilla have. The maxilla has got the pin, which is the other way around when compared to the previous method. So the maxilla has got the pin and the mandible is got the plate, and then you do the specific movements, and this style or the needle makes the marks on the plate, which gives you the centric relation and then also the laterusive and protrusive movements. Indication of graphic method: well healed, broad, edentulous site. So you should have a good ridge. Advocate interarch space should be there. In patients with habitual centric, the use of graphic method eliminates all occlusal contacts on the occlusal rims, allowing the patient to record his true centric. So it is more accurate when you do this method. Contraindication, severely resorbed ridges you cannot do, because what happens is the occlusal rims are almost wobbly in the patient's mouth, so it is not possible for the patient to hold his occlusal rims in the mouth and then give you this relation, or when the stylus is making the recording, the occlusal rims might get displaced in the patient's mouth. Exclusive flabby ridges, the same thing, the retention and the stability is compromised, so you might not get a good recording. The above two are instability of record basis. Decreased interarch spaces. When there is decreased interarch spaces, difficult to place the central bearing device without raising the VD. In patients with temporomandibular joint arthropathy and in patients with abnormal jaw relations. That is basically, this is not usually used in patients who have Parkinson's disease, where there is muscular movement taking place, involuntary muscular movement taking place, so you would not basically get a centric relation using this method. The next one is your pantographic tracing. In this method, it is a graphic record of mandibular movement in three planes as registered by a style on the recording tables of a pantograph. Tracing of mandibular movements recorded on plates in the horizontal and sagittal planes is a three-dimensional graphic tracing. So what exactly it happens is you have six flags which are placed, two flags located at perpendicular to each other, to one another near the condyle. So this gives the two flags adjacent to right and left of the left condylar guidance. This locates the actual to true hinge axis, and then there are two flags placed in the anterior region. They record the anterior posterior movement. So this is how the pantographic recording takes place. This technique is quite technique sensitive. More skill sets is required by the dentist as well as the patient should understand. It is a little cumbersome for the patient because you have a big gadget which is placed in the patient's mouth and you ask him to do certain movements. Uh, and is it worth doing it? Not exactly. It has been proven that doing this procedure and also doing with normal swallow and bite procedure, the dentures which are produced have not showed any advantage by using a pantographic tracing method. Now, coming to the summary, centric relation is reproducible position which can repeatedly arrived at and thus serves as a reliable guide to develop centric occlusion in artificial dentures. Recording centric by using various methods of retruding the mandible is the starting point for the arrangement of artificial teeth to develop maximum recuspation in complete dentures. So that is your lecture for today, and I hope you guys have understood. If you haven't, please put your questions on your Google Classroom. I'm very happy. Me and Dr. Shilpa are very happy to respond to you, give you an understanding, and yes, go through the lecture, give a reading about it because this is important in your clinics. Thank you. Have a great day. Methods of recording centric. So now when we are talking about the different methods, uh, the most common method what we use is by manually asking the patient, by manually or you manually helping the patient to retrude the patient or asking the patient to swallow and then bite. These are the two methods which we usually follow in clinics, but there are some different methods which also can be used. The some of them are physiological methods, that is tactile or interocclusal check record, pressureless method and pressure method. And then you have the functional methods, the Needlehouse method, the Patterson's method, and graphic method, that is intraoral and extraoral. So let's go about with these methods. I'll explain you a little of these methods.